So now I've got enough to the corners and to the edges. So again, back to the middle. I'm just going to pull the quilt top up. Again with my spray adhesive. Just a quick one. Quilt down, and then from the middle. Don't want to distort the quilt, but we just want to get all the creases and lay it flat. I'm going from the middle down and out. Just move it up. Again, pick it up. Spray. One more for this edge. Just this tiny bit here. This just seems to help when you're pinning so that it doesn't move on you, especially when you're quilting as well. And the glue doesn't stick it like super glue. You can lift it and manoeuvre it around if you need to. Okay, so that's that half. Again, back to this half. I'm going to bring the quilt top only, and I can see where my halfway is by the backing seam. Bit of spray glue, and from the middle out again. We're going to that, and then my last little piece here, spray glue that on, and then we're going to have that all ready for pinning. Okay, again, if you try not to distort it or push fabric where it doesn't want to go, that gives us our quilt. Okay, the next job is to pin it. So I'm going back to the middle. I always work from the middle out. So with your pins, now the pins are quilter's pins, and if you can see that, they've got a bend in the actual pin side of it. So when you push it through the material and come through, it automatically comes straight back up. So you're not having to get a, as we used to in the older, get a spoon or your finger. Have many holes in your finger then. So this needs pinning. All my pins are open. So just put a pile of them on. Now when you're pinning, always think about where you're going to quilt. So in this quilt, we actually quilted around each of the jigsaw pieces, their own separate colour. And it's not twisting and turning a lot. I'll show you when I go to quilt it. So I don't want to pin across the seam I'm going to sew. So what I did was I got this colour here, I don't sew in between. So I can pin there, and I'm in the middle. I pin next to the embroidery. Then this colour here, obviously I'm not going to sew through the middle of the same colour, so I can go through that seam. Pin next to the embroidery, and then I pin into the sashing. So let's work out this way. So that's from the middle out. I'm going to pin next to the embroidery. Don't want to go through the embroidery. Go in there. Again, same colour, so I won't be sewing there, so I go through that seam. Pin close to the embroidery. And in this one I've actually pinned into the black instead of over the black and the seam of the sashing, and pin that one there. Then when I come down, let's move it down to the next row that I'll be pinning. So this is the same colour, so let's pin through that seam, through this one, and this one, and then I pinned out onto the sashing. I always like my borders to have some pins in it to hold it there. This one goes through this colour because I won't be quilting over that line, and then out onto the border again. So our next row of pinning will be in the middle of this one, same colour jigsaw piece. No embroideries here, so I just dig straight into the middle. Now as I'm putting the pins through, I am getting the backing and the wadding. Again through that seam, try not to prick your finger. Okay, and the middle of that block and through the black of the jigsaw piece. Going out again, middle of embroidery. This actually gives us good stability as we're quilting because we don't want it to move. Middle, and then the borders. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that pin in the actual black piece of that jigsaw puzzle rather than through there, because at the end I'll be going around. Alright, now I'm going to continue pinning the quilt, and then when we start quilting, so when we start quilting we're going to need a walking foot on our sewing machine. We're going to need invisible thread in the top and the black 100% cotton because we've got black backing on this quilt. And the way I've actually quilted this one is I've started from the middle, and probably easy to show you up on this one here. I've started from the middle and worked around the jigsaw piece, but going all the way down, not into each individual jigsaw piece. I've found a row, gone around and down, then from the middle worked my way up, and then worked my way out around each jigsaw piece. Then once I had the 4 across done, I then went to the next row, but I could do it from the outside, and I worked my way along this line here, just going around each individual jigsaw piece. So this row here, we'd be going around, along, up into that one, down into that one, up in and across. And that's how you quilt, how I've quilted this one. You're most welcome to quilt it any other ways that you wish. Just remember, if you do quilt it a different way, don't pin where you want to quilt. You might want to quilt around the embroidery in here as well, or do a cross hatch quilting in each of the blocks. It's entirely up to you, but that's just the way I've quilted this kit. So when I come back, I'm going to pin all this and quilt it, and when I come back I'll show you the binding, which is the next step in finishing the quilt.